This is the back of my wife's Nissan Leaf, and as you can see, it doesn't have a backup camera in it. This is a 2013 SV, and it's got the navigational screen and everything in front, but it doesn't have a backup camera. And so today I'm going to install one. I've got a bunch of parts ordered. I've got a new lift handle with the camera thing. I've got the actual camera itself, and I've got a couple of wiring harnesses, and I've got some extra wire to work with. And for about $300 and some odd you can upgrade an SV Nissan Leaf to have a backup camera. So I'm going to show you how to do it in this video. Okay, the problem with adding a camera to an SV Nissan Leaf that doesn't have a camera is that for 2013s especially, they don't have the right cabling in the harness that runs along here all the way to the back of the car and up to the camera thing. So I actually have to take this all apart and run a separate wire. It needs 5 wires, and we're going to have to cut out of the harness here, solder in those 5 wires, snake it along here, take out all this paneling and stuff. We're going to take out a lot of stuff, everything here. This whole harness has to come out, and the wire that we'll put in will actually go into here and solder into the new harness that we're putting in. We're actually going to cut the new harness as well and solder it all in, and then we'll be replacing 2 pieces of harness as well. There's one that snakes from here up into here, around there, and then there's another one that'll go all along here to replace all these little, washer, motor, defroster, sensors, and all this junk button thing. And we'll be replacing putting in a camera as well. So a lot of work, but it'll be worth it in the end. In the driver's seat, on the far corner here, there's this panel, and it's attached with a couple of clips here. And those clips just kind of stick in there. You gotta gently lift them up and out, otherwise they'll break off. You have to kind of lift them out of that clip. And there's also a retaining clip in the back here. I popped mine off. It just kind of pulled out, but be careful. So once you get that off, it exposes the wiring harness here. And that's what we want to get into here in a minute. On the underside of the lift hatch, you want to remove this plastic piece, and we want to gently pop these things out. Just gently pull those out, and they come out like that, and the whole thing should be able to just pop off gently. And then we also want to be able to feed wire down here, so we're also going to have to remove this panel and maybe some other panels here, maybe even this seat. So we'll see. Okay, I was trying to figure out how to remove this hatch. If you remove this top piece of the hatch first, it just pops right off, really easy. And then you can remove these side pieces, and from there we can remove the big top piece. Okay, this side piece was a little tricky, but I was able to pull this side off fairly easy, and then this was able to just kind of twist out and pop off. Okay, just the last half of this piece can pop out, and this whole thing can just come on off. Just a minute. This handle was a pain in the butt. It didn't want to pop out, but I finally was able to just gently pull on it, and the whole thing just popped out. These little things had to pop out of there. So I think squeezing it would have been easier to get it to pop out. And here we are, what the inside of the hatch looks like for a Nissan Leaf. Got a lot of fancy stuff there. And there's the 2 screws I can remove to take out the door handle and put in the new one. So some of this wiring harness has to be pulled out of here. But first, I'm going to remove this panel right here. Okay, the carpet and the upholstery were in the way, so I took out the bag. It has to slide off this thing first. I was able to take the charging bag out of there, take out the upholstery and carpet. And now I can remove, thank you, now I can remove this panel here and that panel, and we should be good to go. Okay, I was able to dig dig this thing out. They're kind of a pain. I took off the 2 bolts for this back seat, able to slide it over just enough to get this big piece off to the side. So I'll just come around here and have a look here. Here's all the stuff. And hallelujah, got all the pieces off that I need to get off. So I've got access to the wiring, and I can go all the way up and replace this with a camera. So I think we can now get to work. I've started to disconnect this wiring harness. This is the old wiring harness. I've taken off all the little hooky things as well. You don't have to be too careful because you are going to be replacing it, but be careful when you disconnect the wires themselves. You don't want to damage the connectors, so you can just disconnect all this stuff, and then we'll take the new harness, and the new harness will just go in place of this one. As you can see, the old harness and the new harness. So here's washer fluid, big connector, little, and you just go along and make sure you connect the right one to the right connector, and we'll go from there. Okay, I had to take this lift thing off too, so I could get at this last wire here. There, now I can pull that out. This is very important. Make sure you have a blanket covering up that latch. So if you accidentally close your gate, it doesn't close and you have no way of opening it again because there's nothing here. You know, this original lift thing, it's got this little hole for the button. So when you push the lift button, it opens it. But there's no hole for the camera. Yeah, this little knockout looks like it should have a hole. So I'm going to go ahead and make a hole for that, just so it has a real hole to go through. Okay, so I've got one of these bits here. I'm going to widen out a hole about the same width as that one there. And I've got my center punch here, and here's my camera right here. And that cable will go in here, and I've got to make the hole big enough to accept that grommet. So probably about the same size, maybe a tiny bit bigger than that one. Okay, just very important when you're doing this, don't think about how expensive your car is, that it's, you know, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, whatever. Just imagine you're just drilling a hole. Don't worry that it's a very expensive car that may or may not be paid for. Just make sure that it's not a lease. Don't do this if it's a lease, okay? This has kind of been tricky. But I'm now feeding this wire back out, or feeding the new wire through this conduit thing. It's been kind of tricky, but I think I'm almost done here. It's about through. It's about out. So that'll come out. And I've got the new harness here, the other piece, all reconnected and clicked up. Got a new thing here. We've got this goes to the button to open the door, and this, I believe, is the camera, and it just goes click into its new hole. So we'll have two connectors instead of just the one. I tell you what, these things, they go in a lot easier than they came out. I'm now finishing screwing in the camera into the back plate here. This is from our 2012 Nissan Leaf. It came with a camera. That's a standard camera. And look on the 2013, this is the camera I am installing, and the camera is a wider angle lens. I'm now going to install this right here, and I'm going to feed the wires through the holes, including the new hole that I made. I think those work pretty well. That's a really good fit. There's the original fit, and these will just click in there, click in together. These guys will just click there. In fact, let's just do that. So there's camera connection, and let's get the door lifter connection. Alright, that looks great. And come down here and get that in there. Look at that. Nice. That's a good fit. Because an SV Nissan Leaf 2013 wasn't designed to have a video camera in the back, a backup camera, you actually have to do some modifying of the new harness. So I'm going to cut the yellow, the black, the red, the white, the black. I'm going to cut these 5 wires, and I'm going to have to solder an extension cable on, and that harness will go back like normal, and it'll go all the way to the front here, and up here in the front I'm going to have to cut Okay, I went ahead and routed that cable. Pant back out a little bit. Here's underneath the driver's seat. You pull back the carpet. You take off this strip, you pull back the carpet, and there's a little channel that runs all the way under the back seat, or all the way into the front seat, and it actually goes all the way into the back. And it goes. So here's the back seat. It comes out here. It comes so that way this cable can snake out through there by the seat, and then up into the quarter panel here, and on back. I soldered in all these wires from my cable that I added into the wiring harness that came out of here on this side. On the other side, here's the back of the Leaf now. Here's my cable, and I've spliced into the new connector of the new wiring harness. The cable, I went ahead and routed it and cleaned it up the dressing a little bit, and tied it all up into here, so it's all secure, and I think I'm ready to put panels back on. Well, let's take it out and see how it runs, shall we? And look at that. It's got, interesting, it's very round, very round looking camera. Extremely round. It's not bad though. Oh, it's very bright out here. Probably not going to be able to see it anywhere. Here, I'll pull back in. Okay, we'll try that again. Kind of chopped. It has a very chopped off view, doesn't it? It's just kind of, you see a lot of bumper, and you see a lot of just kind of tops off the top, but you definitely have a lot of view, and I just do love that I can crank the wheel and have it show me where I'm driving to, so that's good. I think I'm happy with it overall. It's very panoramic. I'll show you another, here I'll do another shot with my other car. Okay, here is the regular Nissan Leaf, the 2012 with the built-in camera. Notice how much narrower it is, the field of view.